This is Fabio Murri, and I think I have something pretty interesting for you today. And it's also quite different from my usual walkthrough videos. After some time has passed after I finished my latest series of walkthroughs, I had the idea to challenge myself with a mock-up of a soundtrack. We all know that working on a mock-up is always a great way to go deep into analyzing a piece of music. It's also a real-life test of our orchestral template, the latest libraries you purchased, and of course, a mock-up will always reveal the realistic level of your programming skills. How I picked the track for this project? Well, I am not going to deny, I am quite a big fan of Rocky's franchise. So I'll take this chance to talk about what I think has been Ludwig Göransson's approach when he created the soundtrack for Creed, which you may know is a spin-off about Apollo Creed's son. And while I'm at it, I will also expand on my process to make this mock-up sound as close as possible to the incredible original recording. In particular, I've chosen the track Lord Knows Fighting Stronger. I think it's a very exciting and interesting track, definitely part of my playlist for my workout at the gym. I think Creed was one of the first big movies scored by Ludwig Göransson, and it was already showing that he had the potential to be one of the very top Hollywood composers. I think the reason why Creed was so well received by both the critics and the audience is that the director, Ryan Coogler, really managed to deliver a fresh and modern new chapter to an epic drama, while staying respectful and genuine to the core of the franchise. I think I remembered that he mentioned he was such a big fan of Rocky that he wrote the script for a spin-off about Apollo Creed's son, Adonis. And I think that kind of passion and commitment was the key for Göransson's score as well. He used a very similar harmonic language from Bill Conti's soundtrack, brilliantly adding what you would expect in a much more modern chapter of the saga. Big drums, a more epic approach, electronic elements, everything blended with hip-hop elements, rap, and R&B vocals. I believe these decisions were not about following trends though. These elements have been selected to add specific meanings and more emotional content to the movie. Now, back to the track. Lord Knows Fighting Stronger is the music for a montage sequence, and even just listening to the track alone, you can picture its section in your mind. The track starts when Rocky is at the hospital, starting his treatment for cancer, asking Adonis to get back to training right there, much to his surprise. So let's dive into the analysis section by section. One step at a time, one punch at a time, one round at a time, as Rocky repeats during the movie. The first sound you hear is one of Rocky's soundtrack signature, the orchestral bell, obviously inspired by the boxing bell. Ludwig Göransson's added another percussive element that seems to me to be very much inspired by boxing as well, and that's the triplet 8-note figure characterizing the whole track, first played by the snares, and soon after supported by a big drum section. I think this rhythm was inspired by the sparring sequences, where the punch combinations really seem to be following a musical pattern. And I am pretty sure I spotted a couple of sequences where those punches are even synchronized to the music. I found it incredibly easy to achieve a mix that sounds very similar to the original track with those drums, especially in terms of energy and impact. To achieve that, I am only using the modern drums from Big Bang Orchestra Dorado, layered with the beautiful concert toms from Synchron Percussion 1. As you can see here, I used CC1 to select the high tom variant, as I felt that was giving me the extra punch in the mid-high frequencies I needed. Going back to the snares, I took advantage of the two snares from my Synchron Percussion 1 and 3, normal and piccolo, layered with the snare ensemble from Big Bang Orchestra Dorado. I mentioned earlier in one of my orchestral tips for the synchronized single woodwind specs how effective it is to anticipate a central musical element in the accompaniment to bring it then back into the melody. In this case, the percussion sections already prepares you for the rhythm that is characterizing the main melody of our track. First, the trombones plays the main theme with the triple 8-note figure, followed by sustained notes. Listening to the original track, I had the feeling that synchron brass could really match the vibes, and that's absolutely been the case. It's been very easy to program the trombones in a way that captures the vibes of Creed's track. In this case, I decided to layer the solo tenor trombone on top of the 4 trombone section to add that extra detail that sometimes makes the difference. Both patches share pretty much the same key switches, so it's been just a matter of copying the MIDI clip I recorded for the 4 trombones to the tenor trombone and find the right balance between them, in this case using CC11 to control the volume. I applied a similar concept to horns and trumpets, so I am not going to dwell in their programming other than saying that it was great to have different section sizes available, such as 4 or 6 trumpets. This way I could always find the one that matches the sound of the original track the closest. Once again, I often layered soloists playing the same or a similar articulations to create an even more realistic and characteristic performance. At this point in the track, there is a strong shift into a more electronic moment. I think the first time that the musical moment plays is when Rocky takes Adonis to the Front Street Gym, a very old school Philly gym. This scene is a tribute to Rocky III, where Apollo is taking Rocky back to the roots to get his Eyes of the Tiger back. And I think that's what the theme represents. It's a resonance of where he comes from, all the hard work he put to achieve his goal. It is visceral, like a heartbeat. One step at a time, one punch at a time, one round at a time. In the montage sequence instead, that section starts when we see Rocky struggling with the side effects of the chemotherapy. In fact, we hear a very deep and dark electronic hit, definitely evoking a feeling of sickness, while other synth sound seems to imitate the sound of hospital machines. I quickly reproduced these sounds by editing presets from Smart Spheres, playing with the Synchron Player mixer and its internal plugins. This struggling feeling is completed by high-pitched string special effects that were easy to replicate with Synchron FX Strings 1. The triplet 8-note figure is continued by a single kick synth that I reprogrammed using the Cubase Retrolog plugin, together with another patch from Smart Spheres. The track then beautifully shifts to a completely different feeling, where emotional strings are the main protagonists. The first appearance of this theme in the film is when Adonis is watching Apollo vs. Rocky on YouTube. By the way, that scene pays tribute to Rocky II, with Rocky's former trainer Mickey explaining his training plan to Rocky in order to defeat Apollo. The timbre of the strings and the harmonic language, very close to Bill Conti's original Rocky score, creates instant nostalgia for all fans of the series. Here you can see that I use Synchron Strings Pro, adding an instant of the cello section from Synchron Elite Strings to add more intimacy to the cello line. All strings are supported by a gentle touch of the famous Vienna instrument Harp 1. From Bill Conti's music, Goranson preserved another strong and distinctive element: the opera voices singing almost at the very top of their range. It made me think why such an element works so well in the score for Rocky. My answers, and that's obviously just my opinion, is that we perceive opera singers as extremely trained performers, as voices trained to reach the limits of human possibilities, especially when singing at their top register. This image matches the picture of a talented boxer like Adonis, who has to push himself beyond his limits to get ready for the challenge of his life. Last but not least, these opera singers obviously makes us think about an opera stage, which, in our collective imagination, is probably the pinnacle of drama and extreme passion. In my mockup, I tried different variations, taking advantage of all possibilities I had with the use of the choir in Big Band Orchestra Ganymede and the Vienna instrument solo voices. I ended up choosing to use both the coloratura soprano and the soprano from the Vienna instrument solo voices together with the soprano section from Big Band Orchestra Ganymede. The result is, in my humble opinion, really close to the original, preserving the detailed and dramatic vibrato of a solo opera singer, but also the sense of collectivity provided by the choir. We momentarily move a bit farther to check another point where Ganymede has been very helpful in solving what I thought would be a very tough moment to replicate with sample libraries. I am talking about the rising cluster happening at the end of this section. I think that this moment represents the absolute epics of everything we said before. Luckily, Ganymede offers several pre-recorded clusters, even with an A and B variation. So I found the one sounding closest to the original recording, layering it again with a performance of both the coloratura soprano and the soprano. And here is the result. We're reaching the final section of this mockup. The original track actually continues to shift to a more R&B vocal-oriented moment that I skipped for obvious reasons. But I think it is interesting to mention that this part of the film is also a great modern reinterpretation of an iconic sequence of the original Rocky franchise. Remember the scene in Rocky II where Rocky is running through the streets of Philadelphia and is joined by more and more people? In Creed, we see Adonis running, but he's joined by a young crowd with their motocross and quad bikes, eventually surrounding Adonis in a circle to show their love and support. A very epic and energetic sequence, I have to admit. So now it's time to listen to the whole mockup once again, but first I would like to invite you to let me know in the comments if you are also a fan of Rocky and Creed movies, and if you know any other interesting facts surrounding the movies and their soundtracks. I'll drop a couple myself in here while the mockup plays. I really hope you enjoy this video and my mockup for Ludwig Göransson, Lord Knows Fighting Stronger. Keep on playing, keep on composing. One note at a time, one bar at a time, one symphony at a time.